Hi, guys and gals. This is Jay with Behind the Grind, the Professional GM Chronicles. I want to welcome you guys to today's show. We have with us Dev Avila, who is a professional game master on Start Playing Games and advocate for many other projects we want to learn more about. But we are excited to be able to have an opportunity to pick a brain, to share from experience, and just have some positive feedback and just do some things. But like I say, guys, if you like this project and this endeavor that we've gone on here, tell your party that you liked it. In fact, tell the whole guild, and don't forget to join the Adventurer subscription scrolls. We love interaction. So, Dev, I want to welcome you to the show.
Hello, hello. Glad to be here. Sorry, my cat's getting curious.
Honestly, it's going to be totally cool. The more the merrier. So, if you wouldn't mind, Dev, just take a little bit of time and tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah. So my name is Dev Alva. I am from California. I live near San Francisco, and I am a professional DM. I do it full time as my job, and I am yeah. I really love D&D and 5e, and I've been yeah, just working on different projects regarding that.
Very cool. What's your preference as far as what kind of games that you run?
It's funny, I typically say that level 10 is my level 1. I run pretty much exclusively level 10 through 20 games. I have about five, uh, five or six either level 20 or epic level games. And so I really focus in on the high tier play and the different crazy things that can come with it.
Very cool. If I remember right, you have like 1,100 plus games under your belt at this stage. Is that correct?
Yep, I have a 1,300 and something.
Oh my goodness, that's remarkable. That's incredible. If you wouldn't mind, talk to me a little bit about what first got you to tabletop role playing games. How'd you become a game master?
Yeah, so I had a friend in college who told me about D&D and like exposed me to it. I used to live in Connecticut in a very rural town. I think the only ever thing I saw about D&D was just a glimpse of the books at a bookstore. So I didn't get into it until I was 20. But I really fell in love with it. I really loved all the things you can do with it, the creativity, especially coming up with characters and being able to go on adventures. So I mostly have experience in playing and DMing for game stores, at least in the beginning.
Very cool. So, did you have was it your friends that first got you into it, or was it as far as GMing? What drew you to GMing itself?
So something about game stores is that they always need DMs usually.
Really?
Yeah, at least around here, we might have one committed DM, but there's always more people who want to play. And usually, how we deal with it is to get an adventure module and say who wants to try DMing, and usually someone will volunteer and will play through that, and that's how I started. A group of there was many more players than we had a DM, and I was asked if I could run, and I was like, okay, sure. And I kept running more and more at that game store until I became more on the GMing side than the player.
Very cool. Do you remember the first game that you ran, and how did it go?
Yes, the first game I ran was a tier 1 or level 1 through 4 module that was about 2 hours long. I don't remember much from it, but I remember there was like an elemental snake thing that they fought or something. Um, and what I do remember though mostly is that um, I let or people were able to, because I was not super familiar with the rules then, because I was only from the player side. People would kind of take advantage of that and kind of do some stuff that was kind of crazy out of pocket, and I just kind of go along with it. And I think because of that, it really made me passionate about studying the rules and knowing the game inside and out. I think is the I did have a few embarrassing stuff at the beginning.
I remember the first game I ran was a game called Paranoia, and my players quit. They just like,
Aw.
oh no, seriously, looking back at it, I'd have quit too. So
Mhm.
it's totally cool. What has been your most memorable campaign, and what about it stands out in your mind?
My most memorable campaign for me is most likely uh, a campaign I've been running for over 2 years now.
Okay.
It started off as a level 8 Necropolis campaign. I don't know if you're familiar with Gary Gygax's work. Uh,
1976, two move. Yeah.
yeah. So they came with they had this campaign. Frog God Games made this campaign all based around his concept of Necropolis, and it's old-fashioned dungeon like tricks and riddles and like very intense combat. And I really fell in love with it because I had um, very fun players who really uh, loved engaging with me and building on stuff, and also like character development. And we had a lot of crazy stuff happen in that game. Like two of them became undead. I had to deal with the consequences of that. Yeah. And some and one of them, like he was a warlock for the whole time, so he had to deal with stuff about his patron. And they went from level 8, and we finished the Necropolis campaign at level 12. And then we did my own campaign that I called Chains of Kasari until level 16. And then we played through to City of Brass, and we're still going on today. And it's just like week after week of like really crazy shenanigans and adventures. And so I think it's yeah. You find sometimes some games are very special.
As I say, if you're running that long, that really says something. That's incredible.
Mhm.
Have you ever had a session go completely off the rails? And if so, how do you handle it?
Yeah, so um, one thing about running high tier play is that uh, even as well as you might know the game, players always have a way of surprising you. And in one instance, I was running an epic game, which is above level 20, and uh, they were trying to get into a thieves guild because the rogues managed to steal their stuff, and they needed to get back. So the entrance to the thieves guild, I planned it all out. Would be a really interesting fight with like puzzle cubes that they would have to solve, and like really interesting stuff. And except when they got there, instead of doing that, they said, we're going to use a wish spell and wish for the ability to float through walls to get past
Oh.
the front door. And so I said, okay. And I had them, instead of, gaining that ability as they were, they all turned into CR4 ghosts. And then they had to sort of figure out the adventure that way. But it really it did end up being like they just floated through the door, and all the preparation I made, and I just kind of had to be like, well, that's just how it went, you know.
That's maddening. I totally get that. Okay, so as long as you've been game mastering now, um, who or what has inspired you in your approach to game mastering since you first started? You have any role models?
Yeah. So when I first started, I was very much in my Adventure League community. I don't know if you know much about Adventures League.
I do not. I
Okay,
confess.
so it is Wizards of the Coast community play, where for Dungeons and Dragons, where they pretty much come out with modules for people to run, and it's kind of the idea is that you can have a character in one game in Adventures League, and then bring them to any other game, Adventures League game, as long as they're of the right level. And so I was very so I was very into the Adventures League community. I started out with that, and I did have role models within the community, I'd say. I had Jasmine Lawrence, who was one of the store the sort of store game store coordinators, and she did a really awesome job. And I had Robbie Pleasant, who is also really big in the AL community where I am, and then I have Nguyen Lee, who especially inspired me. He was the first DM who was very good at high tier play, and I really wanted to be that. I definitely got strategies and stuff from Jasmine, but Lee helped me get to really where I am today.
Awesome. And I'm glad you're giving some shout outs too. That's always appreciated. And, we can try and hashtag them later and stuff like that to draw them to this. So they know that we're not, you're talking nicely behind their back as well as to their face. All right.
Mm.
We're going to sidestep just a little bit and we're going to change the set of questions. And let's talk about your philosophy on game mastering, your approach to things. How do you balance narrative storytelling with player agency? Narrative storytelling can be just going from point A to point B to point C versus the free will to do whatever you want. What's your approach on it?
Yeah. Yeah. I For me, I am very much. I try to give players as much agency as they want, and some players they want to explore your world and like go on crazy adventures, but some players also just want to be run through like hand-holded through an adventure. But I would say that for my more open world games where crazier things do happen, I try to make it so at least the party is united on one central goal. Like there's one big bad at the end that they're all working towards defeating, or they're trying to um they're trying to take down someone, or it's pretty much like, yeah, so as long as they're heading in the direction of that goal, it'll in my mind it's a good game. And I think that giving players the option, like responding to players when they try to be more creative or out of the box is really important. And it's it's kind of hard to let go of that control, but at the same time, um, like what is D&D but doing that, like letting your players get away with the craziest stuff. Like one of my groups, they were playing through this high tier adventure I was running, and they ended up um, um, seducing the demon lord that they were originally sent out to
Oh,
kill.
good lord.
And you know what, I was like, fine, I'll let you roll, because this guy isn't super involved in the proceedings, and there's a chance you could talk him down. And they roll really well. And so instead of having this super epic boss fight that I was expecting, we're having this RP conversation, and just kind of laughing at the shenanigans that are happening. But I think, yeah, I think it's hard to let go if you are like a combat orientated DM. But it does lead to some really good movements.
Oh, that's really cool. What's your approach to dealing with challenging or disruptive players? How do you handle that?
Yeah,
I say, imagine as
I
many games as you've got under your belt, you've had to run into that.
you would think so. I would actually say that for the most part, I haven't run into that many disruptive or difficult players while being a paid DM. I will say that as a previously free DM, that would be more common, mostly because you're running into new players who don't really understand rules or etiquette when it comes to tabletop play yet, or you're running into, well, teenagers, and they can be quite disruptive. Um, the only way I have tried to deal with these types of players is just be patient with them, and just try to keep their focus as much as you can. You know, sometimes it's I would say, yeah, when um I also think that my approach to rules is important too. I am very strict on raw or rules as written, and that sort of cuts any arguments off. Like, I've seen people get very passionate about when rules get broken, or when people when they feel like they've been treated unfairly. So I tried to avoid that by, yeah, making sure to treat everyone fairly, and um, yeah, try to be a good mediator if things do get tense.
Okay. Um, do you think a game master should prioritize the story, the rules, or the player's enjoyment, and why?
Well, for me as a paid DM,
Hmm.
it is always about the player's enjoyment. They are paying to have a fun game experience in the one time of the week they might be able to play. And the I think that, yeah, when you it's hard too, because then I could also see how prioritizing player enjoyment might lead to uh, disruption of the story. But for me, you just kind of have to weave around it and be flexible about a lot of things. Sometimes, boss fights will get, shoved away, and I'll just have to reflavor them later down the line. Or, yeah, so the for me, it's definitely player enjoyment, and then try to be more flexible with the other two.
Okay. That's completely fair answer. That's a good point. Um, okay, so you run a lot of games online. And one of the criticisms of online games has always been, with the tabletop, you're able to see body language and facial expressions and things of the sort. So, if we're talking about how you develop your game, how do you create a sense of immersion for your players? How do you develop that?
Yeah, so I will say, I started out playing exclusively in person, and then transitioned to online play. And I will say that I think online play can also lead to a lot of really cool creativity and fun. One big thing is just the beautiful maps you can find online, artwork, illustrations. You can find GIFs. You could have little animated things. So I definitely think a lot of the bells and whistles that come to it can really help with the immersion. Being able to see your own character, and kind of like, when it's online, your identity almost becomes that character. Like, it's not like, out of when you're seeing it face to face, you obviously know they're different. But at online, you just kind of have to take it at face value. Like, oh, this guy that I know only plays an orc, and all I can imagine him as an orc. But yeah, just trying to have some really cool visuals, I think, is fun. I also do background music. I've spent a lot of time uploading music to Roll20 for really fun moments. And it's not only just ambient stuff, but you could throw in like more modern songs in there too. Like, I Need a Hero, I sometimes play certain moments, or like Fireball by Pitbull, when they're casting a ton of fire stuff. So yes, and you could also have sound effects too, but I don't implement that as much.
Okay. That's actually really cool. Okay, so this is the most controversial question that you're going to run into. All right, you ready for it?
Hmm.
The question is, what's your stance on fudging dice rolls as a game
Ah.
master?
Yeah, so as a game master in real life, I don't use a DM screen. I roll it all in front of the people. And then also online, there's not really any way for me to fudge the dice. I am also an open roller.
Okay.
I just, online there's really nothing you can do. It really is up to the dice. A lot of people say that I can manipulate the dice because I crit so much, but but no, I cannot. And I think um, I understand why DMs would feel the need to to fudge dice, usually in order to protect players from from dying usually,
Mm-hmm.
or I could imagine it's also not very fun when your super cool badass evil guy rolls a crit fail and it's like you have to describe them crit failing. And but that's all just stuff that makes the game more random and kind of helps. I think it also just keeping it all in the open also helps players think of it as more fair. Like if they die, it's not because of me, really. It's because they're rolling badly on their side, and maybe I'm just rolling really good on my side.
Okay. I can see how it could develop a sense of trust as well.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're going to pivot now, and let's talk about your philosophy in regards to crafting worlds and narratives. You good with that?
Yeah.
Here we go. Okay, so you've mentioned that you've had your own world. Would you recommend for a beginning GM to build a world from top down? In other words, you got your big map and stuff like that, and we're going to work in this region, this area here, or bottom up. Okay, you starting from this village, and as you expand out, then we start adding other villages and landmarks and things of the sort. What's your feelings on that?
Well, for me, um I tend to actually base a lot of what I um the original content that I run is actually all based uh on 5e lore, and like the Forgotten Realms, the different historical things that have happened. I have one campaign that's set in the time of troubles where the characters all become gods due to the gods falling. And I for those um I typically take it like they have um there's usually I try to make it so that there's several options for them to choose from. But at this point now where it's harder to prep for them, so it is more, okay, you guys are heading over here to do this and this. Um, and the what's for me, it's as long as you're staying like a session or two ahead of them, you're fine.
Okay.
And you're like, you for a lot of me time, I have like, okay, they're going to um, fight. I know I want them to fight Lulth, so I first have to get them to the Underdark. So we're going to travel to the Underdark. What can they do on the way to the Underdark? Okay, now they're at the Underdark. What's the first thing that's happened in the Underdark? Travel through the Underdark, and now they're at Lulth. And so it's like that kind of helps
See, that kind of
prep everything.
environment that you're talking right there gives my heart palpitations. Just because the idea of running, a god, how do you actually give them credit? How do you do them right without making them a paper tiger?
Oh, they are scary in my games. They have thousands of HP, they deal tons of damage, and they have very high DCs. They are definitely like a very uh they're supposed to be like, yeah, they're the most powerful entities.
Oh my goodness! I just playing in that kind of game, it'd be intimidating. That's the best way I can describe it. It'd be intimidating. Okay, do you have a process or trick for creating memorable NPCs?
First of all, always you can't go wrong with a funny voice. Players love the funny voices that you can make, especially if you do that, a lot. the screechy cold woman's help me, that sort of thing. Or it's the yeah, so it's kind of like having fun quirks about them. Or also, I think a big thing is try not to make them very passive. I think or not not afraid to banter or bicker with the players. I think I tend to get good NPC moments when they're not the perfect goody two shoes. Like one time I was running Mordekainen, and as a sort of leading the group through this mission, and the group was surprised to find out that he kind of had a bit of a gambling issue, and he would kind of use magic to win his gambling. And so they were like really surprised at that, and it's like, well, and like that Mordekainen would do that, and so it kind of led to some fun moments.
Right. Okay. Do you incorporate your players' backstories into a larger campaign narrative?
Uh, I I try. I think it's harder in my case where the it's kind of like the moments in game are way more epic than whatever happened in the backstory.
Mm-hmm.
So so a lot what I do is actually incorporate important moments from the campaign, and then like later down the line have consequences or a payoff for them. And like um let me think, like one of them, like one of the players that became undead, eventually they met an angel, and they who was very much against undead, and they would be able to um interact with the angel and RP with the angel in interesting ways to try to convince them, hey, I'm not a monster, I'm just like a normal person. And so I try to build more on what happens in campaigns, incorporate them more into the story, rather than backstory. And I think I'm not sure if that's because it is like so high. I run so high tiered,
Mm-hmm.
or not. I am running a campaign where I was like, in your backstory, one of the archdevils of hell like really wounded you or hurt you in some way. And so all the players had to bring that to the table because they were running a campaign where they were going to kill all the archdevils in hell. And so I think it mostly only comes up when it is directly important. But I imagine in where I'm running, usually the players where they start, they've already had like an adventuring career too. So they've grown, and now they're starting here where even more stuff is going to happen to them.
Okay. Really cool. All right. Let's pivot, and we're going. Given that the audience that we have is mostly beginning GMs and people that are interested or considering the idea of a pro GM career, either part time or full time, these questions are kind of oriented to that. So, well, the first one is, what does the day of a pro GM look like? What's your typical day?
Yeah, my typical day, I'd have about 2 to 3 games that I'm running. And so before those games last for about 3 to 3.5 hours. So before then, I'm usually doing some amount of prep for the game. I usually prep for 30 minutes to an hour beforehand. And then, of course, there's also a lot of talking to people too. When you have a large player base, there's usually something out of character someone wants to discuss. So I have a lot of private messages where I'm in talks with the character about their player character. Um, and it's a lot of drinking coffee, and it is a lot of yeah, working on different things, either in the prepping or just project, or there's always more ways you can improve, and there's always things to do, really. Like if I ever have any free time, it's like I should be, you know, updating my Roll20 rooms. I should be organizing these files. I could be working on the next campaign. So, yeah, it's pretty. There's always stuff to do.
It sounds like it. Sounds like it for sure. Um, if you don't mind, and this is kind of a sensitive issue, but what does your business model look like? How do you get people's attention? How do you pull people in?
Well, when I started off, I did that by running a lot of one shots. I ran cheap one shots like multiple days of the week, and it would get people into my community. It would get people interested in my games. I was one for a while. I was one of the few people who were running high level one shots,
Hmm.
and even now, I'm one of the few people who do put those out there. So I guess a big thing is I draw people who are interested in the high level play, and so I really try to lean more into that. I run level 21 shots. I run mini campaigns for in level 20, and yeah, just it's hard to get noticed unless you do try to work on a niche of some sort and really show to your players that you are different from your average DM. Like how do you stand out? How can how can what are you offering?
Well, with 1,300 games under your belt, you're obviously being successful. So that's
Mhm.
awesome. How many games a week do you run?
Well, right now I'm kind of in a slow season. I'm running about 12 to 13 games a week.
That's slow.
Yes, that is slow. I am used to running at least 15 to 16. So, but with the new year, and also I've had a few tables just naturally end. But sometimes with the new year, it's people's schedules change, stuff like
Mm.
that. But yeah, so I when I'm working, I'm running uh typically two games a day, but that can be up to three.
Okay.
And I do have one day off, and on Sunday I typically only run one game, except for uh once a month I try to do a 9-hour one shot as well.
Really? Oh my
Yeah.
gosh.
Yeah, I've had a lot of successful like 9-hour long one shots where we're running through a big a big story pretty much.
Wow, that's a thought. I might need to talk to you later offline about that. That's a great idea. Okay, so many GMs are wondering what they can do as far as money wise. Ballpark. What do you think that a full time GM that's got a pretty full dance ticket, what are they looking at making maybe be able to pull in per week, per month, per year?
I will say that probably for me, it's hard to have in this business to have consistency.
Hmm.
Sometimes games do get canceled, usually not due to me, but because like three players can't make it, and I'm like, let's not do this boss fight with only three players, that sort of thing.
Right.
And people have lives and holidays and all of that, so you have to factor that in. A good thing about having a big plate is that usually doesn't technically end up a big plate in the end. But when it is, it's like you do have to when you've had like 2 days in a row of having three games, it does get a lot. But yeah, so money wise, I'm raking in usually about 55 to 60,000 a year. I think I could be making more if things were just more consistent, or if I had more high profile games. But that's what it is. Oh, and that's also before taxes. So
Right, that all factors in, but that's
yeah.
still amazing. That's wonderful. Okay, so you've mentioned this with like out of your 12 games a week, how many of them are campaigns versus one shots?
I run majority campaigns.
Okay.
I only run one. Typically, I run Saturday night one shots and once a month 9-hour one shot. Um, and but then other than that, I'm just running campaigns.
Gotcha. Okay. Um, okay, so this is an interesting question. Do you have as much fun running professional games as you did when you're running free games for your friends? Has that changed your perspective over time?
Yeah. One thing is that I will always be extremely grateful for my friends. They were my practice dummies when it came to becoming a good GM. I mean, it took years for me to know how to really balance the game correctly. And sometimes I would go a bit too far. Like one time I found out the spell Feeble Mind, and that poor warlock got feeble minded like 3 times in a row, and like like or me learning different strategies and trying it out on them. So I do say playing with your friends is always very valuable because they give you that experience that you do need. And I think that even now, even with how many games I run, I still run for my friends. I have a every other Saturday game live at my friend's house, and that gaming group has been together for like almost 7 years now.
Awesome.
And then I have a once a month game too. But I will say that with my friends, I'm I never feel like I have to pull back when it comes to intensity, either outside of combat or especially in combat. Like I don't really have to worry like, well, if I take this player out of the fight and they go 2 rounds without doing anything because they're stunned, then they're not going to have a good time. And like, what can I do like so that doesn't happen? Like, stuff like that. It's like, well, no, the archmage is going to psychic scream you, and whoever can make it makes it, and we'll see what happens then. So I will definitely say, like, with my friends, it's definitely gloves off, and then with my players, I can be a bit soft.
Makes sense. All good. Um, so, having done as many games as you've had, what are the players' expectations when they come into Dev's game?
Yeah, they typically expect that they're going to have a fun time. There's going to be laughs. I'm usually not a very serious DM or like a very yeah, I laugh a lot with my players and we make each other laugh a lot. Um, and also, of course, the combats. They can expect a good lengthy combat where it's not going to end after like 1 round. It's going to be an intense experience, and whether they have to be strategic or they're feeling challenged or whatever it is, it's the idea for me is that I try to give an experience um, that's just more heightened and more I don't know, like I imagine like there can just be like you could be like a flatline DM or it can be like a super, energetic up there type and
High energy.
really and high energy, really feeling it with your players.
Very cool. Okay, so we're going to pivot for one last time for this set of questions, and we're talking about kind of your role and how you see yourself in the tabletop RPG community type thing. So, what do you think is the biggest challenges facing game masters in modern tabletop role playing game community? What do you guys see as big challenges right now?
Right now, the big thing is the new 2024 rules, I think. It's kind of started a split a bit between people who, or at least in my world with the 5e, between people who play 2014 5e or people who play 2024 5e.
Mm-hmm.
Even in Start Playing itself, like they don't filter it, so it's kind of just a weird thing. Like um so just big changes, I guess, and changes that I might not really um, that can be pretty hard to deal with, I think.
Fair.
But other than that, I'm not super into the TTRPG community other than D&D. So I'm not really sure of what's the big stuff going on.
That's a fair assessment, and in this case, we're talking about stuff that really applies to you. So it just
Mhm.
I don't want you to speak to things that you're really not knowledgeable of, but I know that you guys are facing a lot of change, a lot of new evolutions type things. So I can totally see this. What do you feel is the responsibility of? How do you feel about the responsibility of representing diversity and inclusion in your games?
Yeah, so something to know about me. I am a lesbian, and I, grew up without really any representation, and whether in games or media. And so when people come into my world, it's like my world is full of people that's like me, and even a majority of them so. And a common joke amongst my players is that if there's a woman NPC, they're gay. And it's kind of true, kind of not. But um, the for me, it's pretty important to, yeah, include, um, make sure to include not even just LGBT stuff, but also, other races, other cultures. It's very, it's easy to find that sort of stuff online these days. I mean, people have made great third-party content. Like I know one is even based on um, like the Philippines. I have one that I want to run, and like you have stuff like Coyote and Crow, or you know, uh, like really cool uh, types of things that you can incorporate into your own
Hmm?
worlds. And I would really encourage people to do that, and to just because it also makes, you might think, hey, why would I need to do that? All I game with are, straight white guys. And it's like, well, do you really know for sure they're all straight white guys, or maybe they're not? And even if not, like, yeah, just the giving people the chance to interact with people that aren't like them in a positive way, is, I think, is something very good.
Awesome. That's great. Great answer. I appreciate that. What advice would you give to aspiring professional GMs looking to make a name for themselves online?
Yeah, I would say, um, two things. First of which, practice, practice, practice. Always be practicing as much as you can. And second of all, try to get as much experience as a player, as well. Just because, when you play under other DMs, you begin to learn what you do and what you don't like, what you want to be, and what you want to avoid. And and then you kind of can start seeing the type of game master you want to be. And and then, there's going to, at the beginning, there's always going to be mistakes that you make, and that's why practice is very important, to practicing with friends or at your local game store, instead of, I would say, don't have your first time running a game be a paid one, because you're just it's just there's too many things that mistakes that you would make as a very new DM.
Okay. Um, Last question. What's your vision for the future of tabletop RPG, specifically to the D&D community that you're involved with, and how do you see yourself contributing to that evolution?
Yeah, so a big thing for me is, as we talked a bit before, inclusivity, including diversity, um, and just having yeah, running more intricate and diverse games. Something that I am proud of, that I've done, is that last year, I wanted to run some a appropriate modules for Pride Month in June. But I was looking online, I could not find any Pride Month modules that I could run other than like one or two that just starred a gay NPC instead of actually interacting with the themes of Pride. So what I decided to do was I wrote my own Pride module called Pride for Flan, and where it is about the talking to different LGBT NPCs and getting their help in setting up a Pride festival. And then, of course, the Pride festival gets attacked by some bigoted cult, and they have to stop them. And so I was very happy to be able to contribute in that way, and proud that at least something like that is out there for people like me. And I want to do even more of that. I am continuing to come out with more work on DM's Guild that include LGBT themes as a focus point, and I think it is also important for people to just in general, like I've had a lot of queer people talk to me about how, like, they really appreciated that I gave them the gay love story that they never got to do as a in general, because the game master would not play into that sort of thing. And so definitely helping the space become more diverse, more inclusive and open, that would be wonderful.
Very cool. Very fair. That's all the questions that I've got off my list that I've shared with you. So before we wrap things up, and we still got plenty of time, why don't you take a little bit of time and talk about some of your projects, some of your games, things that you're promoting right now?
Yeah, so you can find me on SVG under Dev Alva Games. And I have a bunch of new campaigns up. I have epic campaigns if you're interested in higher than level 20 play, as well as a bunch of tier 3 type games that I'm looking forward to starting. And I also have a Patreon as well, Dev Alva Games as well, and where I talk about DMing tips and tricks, and make content for that. And I've also started a YouTube series where I record sessions between for a epic game.
Would love to have all those links, and folks, we'll put that on the bottom for you guys to click and tune in on. So, and I didn't mean to cut you off. I just wanted to say, is there anything else that you promoting locally there, or?
No, that's pretty much it. If you would like to check out the Pride module I wrote, it's just on DM's Guild under Pride for Flan, and yeah.
I say we could probably put a link to that one too. I personally would like to check that out. I think it'd be cool to see. All right, guys and gals, we'll go ahead and wrap things up here. I want to thank Dev for taking time to visit with me and just chat and just have a chance to learn. There's a lot of insight here, a lot of good things that I think that people can pick up, and definitely I admire and appreciate the way you're championing your causes, but I also appreciate the way that you're approaching it too. It shows a lot of class, and I appreciate that. Okay, guys and gals, if you like this episode, tell your party. If you loved it, tell the whole guild. And don't forget to join the Adventure subscription scroll. In other words, like, share, all that kind of good stuff. Dev, thank you again. Folks out there, if you have any questions, put it down in the comments. Make sure that we have a chance to be able to interact. I know Dev will be watching for it. I'll be watching for it. And there's always a chance for us to be able to learn from you guys as well. We want every opportunity to develop our craft, to become better storytellers, and find ways to make the game better for you guys. So, yeah, guys, like I said, I look forward to it. Dev, I appreciate you so much. Thank you so much for taking time. I really appreciate that. Folks, thank you so much. Take care. God bless, and we'll see you on the next episode. Bye-bye.